Hello, Gunners. Welcome back to the Pavilion Debrief. Arsenal won, Manchester City won, and the debate rages. Was Arteta too negative? Did he leave too much creativity on the bench? Critics say yes, and with the way this game unfolded, you can see why. So let's break it down on the Pavilion Debrief. Three ups, three down, and see if there's truth to the criticism. Okay, guys, I'm not at home today, but I wanted to jump on and do a three ups, three down because after every Arsenal game, we've got to talk about what happened, win, lose, or draw. So we'll start out with the three ups, guys. So first thing, defensive structure. I mean, say what you want about the shape. It worked for long stretches, right? City had to wait for their moment. It was a little bit of, confusion in the middle of the park, and balls bouncing off, and then Reijnders took it off, and then it's about speed, right? He puts that through to Haaland. Haaland scores, and it was basically the one clean look in the first hour that the Manchester City had, and that kind of goal that we consider was unfortunate. But a side that is stacked with the talent that Man City had, we held them quiet, and it shows that Arsenal has structure, and that structure is not by accident. I mean, we've only considered two goals this season. Um, Second thing, guys, the sub impact. And this is what we've always been talking about. We've criticized Mikel Arteta about the strength of the squad and his over reliance on just a collection of players. I mean, at halftime, we had Eze, we had Saka, coming on at halftime. It reminds me of back to the days, of Arsenal where, you look at the bench and you got Wanko Kwanu there, you had, the likes of even Dennis Bergkamp sometimes would come up, into a game, and you're already starting, with the likes of, Pires or Ljungberg, and then you had Overmars, you had a bench that was really, really strong, and it's so great to see Arsenal, return back to that. And there was a couple of things that I really liked, in that when Saka came on, he didn't just go to the right. Saka came to the left. Martinelli switched to the right, and the balance changed. And I would love to see that a little bit more. So that's definitely an up for me. It shows some flexibility in terms of what Mikel Arteta, can do, and how fitting again for the second time within a week. Martinelli comes off the bench, took his chance and got us the equaliser. Some decisions were spot on at the moment. Although I was a bit curious about Madueke coming off, but then, of course, we now know that he suffered an injury. Hopefully, he doesn't go out for too long, but because he's made an incredible start to his life at the Emirates. Right. Okay. Third thing has got to be the resilience to respond. A lot of Arsenal teams, would have crumbled, with this. We're talking about a Manchester City that everyone doesn't think is that good coming to the Emirates. And we go a goal behind at home, and that can suck the air out of the Emirates. It really can. But instead, Arsenal pushed back, and there was only one team who were actually going for the win in that second half, and that was Arsenal. The fight, Saka was doing his thing, Martinelli was doing his thing, the midfield were covering ground. The fact that you didn't really hear a lot about, Sublimendi or Rice was because we're doing a great job in that midfield, holding that midfield together. So for me, I think it matters. I think this resilience matters. Everyone is talking about the fact that Liverpool, are scoring late winners, and that's great for them. But I think that this defensive resilience is going to help us. I know about the missed opportunity, and we're going to talk about that. But I think this other Arsenal teams would have folded, but this Arsenal team hit back, and that's got to be a positive for me. Okay, right. We've got to go to the three downs. We've got to go to the three downs, guys. And yes, this is where the criticism, really, really bites. The lack of creativity early. With Odegaard out, Arsenal started cautiously, maybe too cautiously, without Eze or Saka. In my preview show, I did really advocate for even bringing Waneri, into the mix, because I thought that that would bring a level of unpredictability, right? But I'll talk about that. So with Eze or Saka from the off, the first 45 lacked a lot of ideas. Obviously, Noni Madueke was a major threat, from us. And Trossard didn't do too badly. It's just a different kind of player. And we struggled to break the lines, and it looked like we were playing not to lose instead of playing to win. So that lack of creativity has to be a down, and we've got to fix that. I know it's only 5 games on in the season, but we definitely have to address that. The second one that is a down is the missed opportunity to surprise City. I think, like I say, I was advocating for Nwaneri to start this game. If Nwaneri or Eze had started, I think City had prepped for a control Arsenal, because this is what we kind of expect from Mikel Arteta when it comes to games like this. But throwing something unpredictable at them might have flipped the script, right? Instead of Reijnders growing into the game, picking his pass, setting Haaland free, playing safe, I think we let City, off the hook and allow them to settle. But I mean, it's an opportunity to learn, and I'm sure that Mikel, will learn from this game going forward. Because listen, you don't know in future games whether you're going to have all your players, right? So you've got to take advantage of the opportunity. But I feel like, the next couple of games, we play Newcastle, at the weekend. We're going to do a preview on that. I expect Mikel Arteta to go out in that game looking to win. I expect Eze to be unleashed in that game. So watch out for that preview as well. And the third thing that has got to be the down, from the game, guys, it's the perceived negativity, the perception of negativity. And it's very intangible, but at the same time, it is a little bit real. Is Arteta too negative in big games? Because that's the story now that everyone is building. And of course, all the pundits, and past players are really pushing that narrative. And this is where, I want us to be really careful as Arsenal fans, because if you remember last season, there was a narrative that was pushed about Arsenal's indiscipline, and it was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're going into games and we're getting all these strange calls, that really sucked us out, of the title race. And I don't want this to be a fulfilling prophecy, in terms of this negative perception, right? Because first it was Liverpool, now City. And even if the logic of his lineup is defendable, leaving creativity on the bench just fuels that narrative. And perception matters. It matters for the players, it matters for the fans, it matters for rivals. Arsenal need to project boldness, not hesitation. That for me, is something that, we really, really need to watch out, and you don't want, critics to be pouncing, right? Because it weakens morale, for everyone. And sometimes it allows people to sort of, project Arsenal a little bit. And of course, these players hear everything that's going on. So that for me, if there's one thing that I would say, is that as well as Mikel has done in terms of bringing the fans together, bringing that togetherness, from the fans at the stadium, and Arsenal PR is one of the better ones in the Premier League. We just can't allow this negativity perception to take hold. From a psychological angle, I think it's really important. So, guys, I mean, what's the criticism fair? This is a debate that I do want you guys to jump on. It's Arsenal 1, Man City 1. We're still unbeaten, but I want you guys to jump on this debate. Absolutely. I would call this game a draw of two halves. That's what I would say. The first half, showed the downside of caution, and the second half showed the upside of unleashing our creativity. So, what do you guys think? I think it's a debate worth having. So let's join in. Drop your takes below in the comment section. Let me know. Would you have rolled the dice on Nwaneri? Would you have started Saka or Eze? This is your Pavilion Debrief. Win, lose, or draw. We come here and we talk about what we saw in the game. And the questions over style and bravery are only just beginning because you know what it's like, with Arsenal. People are just going to continue. But let's keep it tight. We've got a cup game on Wednesday against Port Vale, and then we've got Newcastle. So let's get 2 wins with that. Come on, you Gunners.